Here we are. Amber's exes are out here banding together like the Avengers and exposing her for the absolute nightmare that she is. So of course she hops on alive, snivelling and gaslighting and doing damage control like the PR crisis manager of a crumbling empire. It's a tale as old as time. Everyone is lying about me, I'm the victim, here's a word salad of fake accountability. She is bravely and single-handedly fighting against the oppressive forces of truth and accountability. Have you ever seen the movie Clue? The one with Tim Curry, and towards the end he recaps the entire movie's events to get everyone up to speed. He's running from room to room, dragging everyone behind him and rapid-fire spitting out all the events of the narrative so far. This entire mess is playing out exactly like the Clue ending, but instead of Tim Curry and his flawless delivery, we've just got Amberlynn breathlessly contradicting herself while fumbling through her own script. Just imagine it, Amber dashing from room to room, if you can imagine her dashing anywhere, panting, narrating at lightning speed. First, I never bled on anything except for the times that I did, but it doesn't count, and then I wasn't financially abusive, but I controlled all the money, and I didn't buy my own engagement ring, but I did, but that's normal, and I didn't force Beck to do anything, but if I did, they should have said no, but they didn't, except now that they did, and then Nick Ricardo betrayed me, but he didn't, but also he did, and I have text messages, but I don't remember what I said, but I definitely didn't lie, but maybe I did, but I didn't. Anyway, let's move on. And the audience is just standing there like Mrs. Peacock, completely unhinged, eyes darting around and not knowing what the hell just happened. And also like Clue, there's multiple endings depending on which version of events Amber's spinning at any given moment. But wait, that's not how it happened. Here's what really happened. It's a choose-your-own delusion scenario, and we're all trapped inside this cursed board game. She starts off strong with technical difficulties because, of course, the universe itself is trying to stop this from happening. Even the internet itself can't bear the weight of her impending nonsense. Even technology's tired of her. She blames the wind, which frankly is poetic. Nature itself is revolting against her attempts at manufactured accountability. She instructs her audience to settle in, grab some snacks and get comfortable, because nothing says serious accountability like setting the mood for a cozy movie night. But don't worry, she's drinking Fiji water, which of course must be announced because hydration is rare in these parts. Within minutes we get the infamous first sip of water in months, a statement that's both horrifying and, if history's taught us anything, entirely fabricated. But of course the Fiji water must be involved because the delusion of dainty remains intact. She quickly assures us that this stream is all about accountability. For those unfamiliar with the Amberverse, let me translate. I will pretend to take responsibility while blaming everyone else and vaguely alluding to my immense personal growth without demonstrating any actual change. She insists that she'll be sharing the truth, all while conveniently dodging specific accusations, contradicting herself, and clutching onto screenshots that prove nothing. But she's nervous and anxious, so naturally any questioning of her claims will be met with sympathy. Right? But here's the thing. When normal people take accountability, it sounds like, I did this, it was wrong, and I will change. When Amberlynn takes accountability, it's a 20-minute TED talk on how it actually wasn't her fault. I have BPD, so that explains why I acted that way. Amber, BPD explains a lot, but it does not excuse lying, financial control, and manipulating people. I never forced Beck into anything, except we have literal proof of her admitting to controlling the time, finances, and bathroom trips. I was never financially abusive, I was generous. Then why is there an entire section of the livestream dedicated to debunking the I controlled the bank account accusations? It's classic Amber. Admit to just enough that it sounds like growth while twisting the rest of the narrative in her favour. She spends 90% of this livestream claiming she's here to be accountable, while also twisting herself into verbal knots to avoid taking any responsibility for anything. I was controlling, but let's not talk about that. Let's instead talk about how unfair it is that I was held accountable at all. She conveniently has notes, which are basically pre-written excuses, but somehow forgets half of what she planned to say, spending more time scrolling than actually speaking. This, of course, gives her the opportunity to play her favourite game, acting overwhelmed by the very chaos that she herself creates. And then we enter her favourite act, playing the silenced victim. She presents a message from Beck that essentially boils down to, stop talking about me or I'll take legal action. Okay, that's fair. But then Beck started making videos about me and it was hard for me. And there it is, Amber's unique brand of hypocrisy. She sees no issue with discussing private details of past relationships, but when the tables turn, that's just not fair. She even manages to paint herself as the oppressed party while admitting she was broadcasting their story for clicks. And of course she spends a huge chunk of time talking about Beck, because who is Amber if she's not obsessing over an ex? She claims she wasn't controlling in the relationship, and then immediately follows it up with admitting she dictated their finances, time, and monitored their phone usage. She brings up bank statements and financial proof as if we haven't seen Beck straight up show receipts proving otherwise. And let's not forget the shocking betrayal she just uncovered, that Beck wasn't actually enjoying all those forced activities. Who could possibly have guessed that Beck didn't love being paraded around like a personal assistant, forced to film hauls and do chores for someone who wouldn't lift a finger? Amber brings out a years-old text from Beck as supposed proof that she was silenced. What she fails to acknowledge is that this message came after she had already started airing personal details about their relationship without consent. But in Amber's mind, boundaries don't apply to her, only to others. She then spends the next eternity trying to convince us she wasn't financially abusive, despite admitting that all their money was pooled together and that Beck had to send her screenshots of their bank account because Amber couldn't access it herself. Yet somehow Amber's the victim? Fascinating. She dramatically reveals screenshots to support her claims, but these receipts are as compelling as a grocery list. Her big gotcha moment is a bank statement proving that she needed Beck to tell her how much money they had because she voluntarily let Beck manage the finances. Somehow in her mind, this proves she was financially controlled rather than just incompetent with money. Amber, admitting you are financially clueless is not the gotcha moment that you think it is. I thought I was ready. I really did. And then the bedbug segment happened, and then a free bleeding monologue. Amber, no one asked for these details. Nobody. But she just can't help herself. If she's going down, she's dragging the entire audience with her. And then, the big moment, the sacrificial confession designed to make her audience feel bad for her so they forget she's supposed to be addressing serious allegations. With great self-inflicted humiliation, she announces, Beck wiped me for 9 months. Let us be clear, this is not an attempt at real accountability. This is a shame grenade, meant to explode in the audience's face and cloud our rational thought. She wants people to feel so uncomfortable and pitying that they forget what we're actually here for. Because what does this have to do with accountability? Nothing. It's a red herring, a calculated tactic. Don't be fooled, this is not Amber owning up to anything. This is Amber reinforcing her lifetime narrative of helplessness, ensuring that every failure, every bad relationship, and every controversy can ultimately be blamed on her circumstances rather than her choices. Now, while the internet will surely turn this into a meme, as it should, the real horror is that she admits she simply forgot how to do it herself. Not due to medical complications, not because she was recovering, just because she stopped trying. The level of entitlement is staggering. She genuinely sees nothing wrong with this outside of being embarrassed that it's now public knowledge. Not the burden it placed on Beck, not the fact she expected it to continue indefinitely. The real tragedy in Amber's world is that we now know. So now we all get that image in our head, and all I can picture is Beck armed with a wet wipe and a 1,000-yard stare. So, to recap, she pretends to take responsibility, but only for minor offences. She blames others, but under the guise of just setting the record straight. She contradicts herself constantly, as if people won't remember what she said 10 minutes earlier. She uses emotional manipulation, whether through fake giggles, forced tears, or exaggerated shock at things that she chose to bring up. And she pretends she's above the drama despite hosting a multi-hour live stream dedicated to it. She says things like, "This has been so hard for me, you guys don't even understand. I just need to get this off my chest. People just don't want to believe me, and that's not fair." Amber, we do believe you. We believe you're the same manipulative, self-serving person you've always been. We believe you only acknowledge wrongdoing when it serves you, and we believe that you'll continue doing this for as long as people keep watching. She talks some about the bleeding on the mattress, because what's an Amberlynn livestream without more oversharing and more attempted emotional manipulation? She assures us that she never got blood on anything, yet within mere seconds she contradicts herself by defending a moment where she may or may not have. This is classic Amber. Confess while denying, admit while deflecting. It's a fine art that she's perfected. And then, here we go, a fresh reminder that she has BPD. But this time, she has categories. Discouraged, self-destructive. What's next? Limited edition? Collectible? Will she be unveiling a BPD deluxe in her next livestream? She's tested for these things, you see. Of course, we aren't provided with any proof of where this testing occurred, nor do we get any clarification beyond her dramatically flipping through some unseen notes. But anyway, the takeaway here is simple. BPD is Amber's continuing excuse, and she wants us all to take note. The fan favourite question: why did you buy your own engagement rings? Amber's answer: because I was the one making money. Yes, it seems that not only did she purchase her own engagement rings, but she's now retroactively attempting to frame the entire relationship dynamic in a way that makes her look like some benevolent queen providing for the peasants. Financial abuse? Never heard of it. Just ignore the fact that she controlled the finances and is now bewildered that people are pointing out the power imbalance. When pressed on why she's controlling in relationships, she launches into an exhaustive psychological analysis of her own abandonment issues. Yet somehow she fails to answer the actual question. She's never done anything wrong. If she controlled her partners, it wasn't intentional. If they felt trapped, it's because they should have spoken up. If they did speak up, she simply doesn't remember it happening. Amber's version of accountability is merely acknowledging something that happened while never truly taking responsibility for it. I can't understand how I financially abused Beck because they had access to all my money. Ah yes, the I let them touch my wealth, therefore I was generous argument. It's a fascinating attempt at both absolving herself of guilt and reinforcing the narrative that she was the only contributor in the relationship. This, of course, conveniently ignores any possibility that financial dependence itself can be a form of control. Then, mere moments later, she does something truly spectacular. She does acknowledge the power imbalance, and then promptly moves on as if it's irrelevant. It's magnificent, a work of art. One cannot help but marvel at how, despite Beck, Destiny, and everyone she's ever been with recounting eerily similar experiences, Amber continues to insist that everyone else is mistaken. It's almost admirable. Almost. And then we get to the Nikocado segment, a truly special moment. This is a performance within a performance. She drags out her old phone, dusted off from the depths of her storage, to prove that Nikocado once texted her about her cancer. This does not, in fact, refute the claims that she lied about details. She spends some time dramatically scrolling as if uncovering the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the irony is that Nikocado merely said she lied about it. He didn't say she never had it. But of course, Amber must make it a personal tragedy. And this is what she does best: exaggerate, redirect, and feign devastation while ignoring the real issue at hand. All this does prove is that she's willing to hoard receipts from 2019 like they're treasured relics. She also can't stop mentioning Alexis. She claims not to care, yet practically foams at the mouth when discussing her. If there's one thing we know about Amber, it's that she can't handle being rejected. This woman could ghost an entire graveyard by herself, but when the tables are turned, suddenly she's a victim of betrayal. She wonders aloud if she's a narcissist. Amber, the fact that you asked the question already answers it. She insists that every professional she's seen has said no. It's convenient, considering these same professionals have apparently also diagnosed her with every possible disorder that can be repurposed as an excuse. We get a little bit on the choosy hostage situation. Amber insists that Beck never indicated they didn't want to play, because in Amber's mind, silence equals consent. If Beck didn't say, "I hate this," then surely they were enthusiastically enjoying hours of mind-numbing decision-making. And yet, somehow Amber's confused as to why people call her controlling. Throughout this entire mess, Amber wants us to believe she's been wronged at every turn. She's held to an unrealistic standard. She is the true victim. Not Beck, who had to play nursemaid for years. Not Destiny, who had her personal details aired out for profit. Certainly not the audience, forced to endure yet another cycle of manipulation disguised as truth-telling. No, it's Amber who suffers. So, as always, we close with Amberlynn as the victim. The world is against her. Her exes are liars, the audience is nitpicking, she is misunderstood, and yet she will not air anyone's dirty laundry because she's a noble and righteous queen. Except, of course, when she does exactly that but justifies it as self-defense. As the live spirals towards its inevitable sobfest, she begins her grand finale. I feel so judged. No matter what I do, people criticize me. People hold me to impossible standards. You mean basic human decency, like not financially controlling your partners, not weaponizing your audience, and not lying about everything? Amber, you're not being held to a higher standard. You're being held to the same standards as everyone else. You just keep failing at it. Basically, she's given us another hollow attempt at damage control. If you remove the emotional manipulation, the contradictions, and the moments of glaring hypocrisy, what are we left with? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But this is the Amberlynn experience, which is a never-ending carousel of excuses, revisions, and elaborate justifications for why she's always right and everyone else is always wrong. She remains the undisputed queen of manipulation, blame-shifting, and victim-playing. Her entire stream was a curated illusion, a desperate attempt to claw back her narrative and maintain plausible deniability. She is not sorry. She's simply inconvenienced by the fact that people are finally questioning her version of events more comprehensively. This wasn't accountability, it wasn't honesty, and it wasn't growth. I'd say I was unimpressed, but that would imply I was expecting better to begin with. The live was a masterclass in self-pity, blame-shifting, and carefully curated half-truths. The only thing she's truly mastered is her ability to manipulate an audience, convincing the gullible that her suffering is always greater than anyone else's. But the internet never forgets, and neither do we. It's the same cycle every time. The Amberlynn redemption tour is a scam, and we're not buying the tickets. It's been exhausting, but also deeply, deeply amusing. What were your favourite unhinged moments? And how long do we give Weight Watchers 2025 before it's abandoned? As always, stay petty, stay skeptical. Until next time.